feel with this team that there's going to be a moment, or at least maybe 2 or 3 moments where they have a chance to win this game. And obviously they'd already missed the penalty as well. So it's a team I'm looking at now, asking who is going to stop this team. I'm not sure at this point. Argentina and England on the other side of the bracket will be hoping Spain or even Belgium could do them a favor so they don't have to get that far, because I'm just not sure any of those teams are capable of stopping them. I don't know what the best approach is. Maybe Spain will try and keep the ball away from them if that is the matchup in the semi-final. But I think we're looking at, honestly, I don't think it's hyperbole at this point, one of the all-time great attacks that we've seen at a World Cup. I think you can look at some of the great teams down the years, Brazil of 1970, previous France teams, obviously, as well. This group for me is right up there. You know, you've just got 3 players who are all Ballon d'Or caliber, plus one in whether it's Doué or Barcola, who is very good as well. And I don't know how anyone is going to come up with some kind of game plan, some kind of solution to keeping them off the score sheet. And right now they look like they're marching on to a World Cup.
They're spectacular. The semifinal might bring about a different kind of matchup. We'll get into that in a moment. But this team is well balanced. And like Ollie said, the front 4 is just untouchable. I mean, they have the best expected goals, the best expected goal differential in this tournament. And they seem to be playing on completely another level. This one was a little bit of a no contest, not because Morocco isn't a very good side. It's because of the threat that front 4 possesses. Their teams are afraid to get beaten in behind. And if you commit too many numbers, they're just going to tear you apart. And if Morocco was thinking about playing expansive in the very first minute of the game, Morocco committed bodies forward. Hakimi went down. It was never a foul. And you just saw like Mbappe go. Like, yeah, like rocket fuel, enabling him just to fly forward. He just got in behind the back line with ease. And that was kind of a warning shot. I also don't think that the kickoff time helped whatsoever. Like 4 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon in Boston, it's mid-30s. Both teams looked out on their feet. The game was played at a snail's pace. And I just think that this is a flaw in some of the kickoff times across this tournament. I think we want to see best on best, with the conditions for teams to play their best. And generally across the table at this tournament, in climate-controlled conditions, we've seen really brave performances, more attacking play, more running, more legs. I mean, it was like they were running in quicksand. And this is the problem here. Like dating back to Qatar, like the stadiums were climate-controlled as well. So I wonder if this is going to be somewhat of a mandate going forward, unless you're playing in a more temperate environment. Because Morocco, even if they wanted to, they couldn't. And even by the end of the game, Mbappe and Koundé, players are just like, okay, my time to come off. It was 2-0 at that time, but it just didn't seem like there was any way back. So as good as French are, the conditions simply weren't there to give Morocco a real puncher's chance in this one today.
Maybe they just need to practice a little bit more in hot saunas and just get used to it, because Mother Nature always plays a factor in outdoor sports. But either way, Kylian Mbappe shows up on the score sheet. Hey, do you want to know what's awesome about Mbappe and Messi missing penalties? It proves they're human and not AI. So Mbappe misses a penalty in that first half, but gets one in the second. He now takes the lead in the Golden Boot race because he does have more assists. So while he and Messi have 8 goals, he has 3 assists. Messi has the 1 assist. And this is also pretty incredible when you just look at his World Cup contributions as well. So 20 appearances, 20 goals, 5 assists. This is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you go back 4 years ago, it was quite the battle going back and forth between him and Messi when it was Argentina, France in the final. It was who was just going to outscore whom. Mbappe, if you didn't know him 4 years ago, you did after that game because it was so spectacular, Ollie. But this guy's a goal-scoring machine.
Yeah, and I talked about France, I think, having one of the all-time great World Cup attacks. He's one of the great all-time World Cup players, and he's 27 years old. You wouldn't bet against him having kind of the outright claim to that throne by the end of his career. 20 and 20 at the World Cup is phenomenal. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous, both in terms of quantity and ratio. The way he continues to deliver for France has been exceptional. And it just feels like, again, particularly with him and Elise, not to overlook Dembele, who's been brilliant as well. But those two, if you just give them an inch of space, one opportunity to punish you, I know he missed a penalty, so you can say you didn't take that one, but certainly an open play, it feels like they're going to take it, and they're just going to be absolutely ruthless and clinical. And you saw that with his goal, which was absolutely brilliant. So the one thing that's missing on his World Cup resume, incredibly, given how well he's played at World Cups, is the golden ball. He hasn't been the best player yet. It was Modric in 2018 and Messi in 2022. You wouldn't bet against him getting it this time.
The French national motto is Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, and they're about to add Mbappe to that equation as well. That's how good he is. That's how important he is. He's going to go down as the best World Cup player all time, and he might be already. Lionel Messi is giving him a run for his money right now, but Mbappe's at least 10 years younger than Messi. Like, he is shattering records. His performance is a little bit even more surprising. Obviously, we know he's a really great player, but he went through a really difficult season at Real Madrid. Injuries, there was rumors, there was just general dysfunction at Real Madrid over the course of the season. But the fact that he comes into the French national team, he said, like, all I need to do is be playing games and I'll be ready to play for France. And look, I don't think there's been a player at this tournament who looks on better form. Like, the reason why he missed that penalty, and I kind of felt for Mbappe in that moment, it was ridiculous. The VAR review went for over 3 minutes. And what were they reviewing? Yeah. They were reviewing nothing. And he had the ball down, and his cadence, his rhythm was completely taken away on that penalty. And it ended up being just a pass back to Bono. So I kind of felt for him in that moment. I don't put that on Kylian Mbappe, but he's going to be up for it no matter what he does or who they play against. Like, look, if you're going to add another 2 players to the equation, Olise, Dembele are as good of running mate you can find across world football. So his threat comes naturally to him, but the players around him make him that much better, that much more of a threat.
Huge gasp when he went down, ultimately subbed out, and you saw him on the bench with that ice on the right ankle. He looked okay, but you know there are going to be a ton of questions about it tomorrow to make sure he is okay. Because yes, if you are a fan of France, you don't want him going down. But even if you're just a fan of the game, you want to see the best in the game. So everyone keeping their fingers crossed there when it comes to that right ankle. So they are the first team to book their ticket into the semi-final. So who will they play? Well, it'll be between Spain and Belgium. That game goes tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern. For the Win will come up at 6 p.m. ET to break that down. That one in Los Angeles, and that is where Christian Jack is now. This powered by General Mills, so it's welcoming KJ. Look at that. I don't know if KJ's right there on the beach. Maybe not. Maybe in his hotel room. But we welcome him to the show here, Bet365 for the Win. And let's begin. Listen, you're hitting that beach afterwards, aren't you?
Maybe just for you. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Let me live vicariously through you. But let's begin with Spain. I think a lot of people, it was a bit of a nervous start for them when it was that 0-0 draw against Capo Verde. But of course, they've gone on. They're here in the quarters, have yet to allow a goal. What do you think are maybe some of the biggest questions surrounding Spain as they head into their quarterfinal match?
Yeah, I mean, well, you guys have been breaking down so well the French performance, and it's almost like they are the favorites for a reason. But if anyone can stop them, maybe it's Spain. And what France did in Boston on Thursday, can Spain do in LA on Friday? And I think that's the big question, particularly coming off what was an average at best performance in the last game against Portugal. Obviously, they got the win, and that's all that mattered. Nobody ever remembers how you did it in World Cups. It's just, did you do it? And so I think the important thing for them is that, they've got to go out there and deliver a performance now that is going to put them at the level of which they can go on and try and contend against France next week if Spain get there. This is their 17th appearance at a World Cup, and only twice have they ever made it to the last 4. You think about a true giant of football. They finished 4th in 1950 when there wasn't a semi-final. That was that final group stage. And then the other time was 2010 when they went on to win it all. But you alluded to it defensively. They've been brilliant. And Unai Simon, the goalkeeper, 609 minutes now in total. He beat Walter Zenga's record from Italia, 90. It's not just the fact that they are not conceding. It's just the fact that teams have not even been able to get chances. Portugal had 2 shots on target. They've been 6 against them the entire World Cup. So can Rodri, Pedri, Dani Olmo get that midfield moving the ball a little bit quicker? Thibaut Courtois, the Belgian goalkeeper, who's been very good with us in the media the entire time on this World Cup. He spoke for ages in Vancouver as well. He labeled them clear favorites this week when he was in training in LA. So it'll be difficult to break them down. The defense has been excellent. And I know everyone wants to talk about Yamal and can he deliver? But defensively, I think, another teenager on their team, Kabasi from Barcelona, I think he's probably been the best centre-back in this World Cup, along with Nico Elvedi from Switzerland. So it's going to be a tough task, but, the big favourites.
Well, and they are. And Belgium, I mean, long gone is the golden generation. And a lot of people thought that maybe even the Americans could have the Belgians up against the ropes because they haven't exactly been the best. Instead, Belgium pulls off that 4-1 victory, and off they go. De Bruyne and Lukaku, as we know, were on the bench even for that one to start. But what are the biggest questions now heading into this match for Belgium?
Strange side to analyze, really. I think speaking to a lot of people here in the media, they felt that they were quite an average side. But if you look now, they're unbeaten in 18. 12 goals, you mentioned that they got 4 against the US, smashed 12 goals in the last 3 games. Yes, they weren't just on the ropes against Senegal. They were down on the canvas, and they found a way to get back. One thing that people are talking about here in their favor is that Belgium have gone from Vancouver to Seattle for 2 games and now to LA. I think we saw, particularly in the last couple of games, where some of the travel has certainly helped certain teams. I know Spain were already here in LA before they went to Texas to play Portugal. That has kind of helped them. It's also galvanized some of their local fans. I was on the plane with some Belgian fans, some Canadian fans who are traveling down here to support them. Some local coaches from Vancouver were given tickets because they knew the Belgians when they were in Vancouver. So there's a few things that are obviously going for them, but it's going to be tough. This is their 3rd quarterfinal in the last 4 World Cups. But to do that for a small nation is definitely certainly one that you need to compliment them for, having only done it, I think, once in the first 10, and that was in '86 when they beat Spain on penalties. So, I think that for me, it's about, can they keep it tight and get their game breakers moving in the game? And I think when you think about that, they have shone so far and got Tielemans going and other players. Lukaku's a fringe player, which he was at club football all year this year. Doku has obviously been up and down as well. The one other thing quickly on Belgium is that they're not intimidated by Spain because of reference points. It's unusual for European teams to meet in a World Cup quarterfinal like this and not having played each other at all for 10 years. These days in European qualifying, World Cup qualifying, Nations League friendlies, there's so many opportunities for teams like this to play each other, but they haven't played each other since 2016, and the teams are very different since then.
It's so crazy when you talk about Lukaku being that fringe player, which we know that he is, but he still comes on for his national team and scores. We just looked at the brilliant rate at which Kylian Mbappe is scoring. But if you look at Lukaku with his national team here, I mean, this is a guy you just can't count out every time he steps out onto the pitch for Belgium. Who is your Tellus player to watch in this game?
Well, I've gone with Kevin De Bruyne because I think obviously all eyes will be on Yamal for a reason. De Bruyne, the rumor is here that he's going to play and he's going to start the game. It's 8 years this week that he played in that brilliant quarterfinal in Kazan when Belgium were much like they are right now, severe underdogs against Brazil. They started well. They played with 2 split strikers. De Bruyne was excellent, got a goal and man of the match in that game. He's just turned 35 during this World Cup. We spoke to him in Vancouver. It is likely to be his last World Cup. He does not want it to be his last World Cup game. And against Spain, if you're going to get a chance, it's probably going to need to have that vision and that quality and that intelligence. And to see De Bruyne alive, you can see it here at the World Cup that he's still got that. So, look, Belgium can go quite far if they can get through this, but De Bruyne has to be the one that can help them carry them.
All right, that game tomorrow between Belgium and Spain, 3 p.m. Eastern. Who will go on to meet France? KJ, you're going to stick around because when we return, we're going to turn our attention back to Canada. Canada Soccer, Jesse Marsh. What does he need to do after this tournament here to get the most out of his team? Do you expect big changes as well when it comes to players? Stay with us.
For the Win on One Soccer is presented by bet365.
The game isn't over yet. But Gary just got paid with Bet365's early payout when his team went up 2 goals. Now, Gary can't stop celebrating. And honestly, we're not even sure he knows how.
Or forever hold
Download the Bet365 app and get paid out early when your team goes up 2 goals.
Here. Oh, what a move. That is a quality ball. Now the run into the box.
We were there for your first game together. The day you taught him the rules and the answer for every question. We've been there for the good times and a few moments we don't talk about. And now?
Who won the most Canadian Classics?
It's a passion you can share. And we're just happy we could be there. 20 years, and we're still growing. Together.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Samsung.
This is Our House presented by Samsung. Andy, Gareth, Ollie, and KJ still with you as we turn our attention now to the Canadian men's national team. Even though they have bowed out of this World Cup tournament, we are all about looking ahead, what's next for them, and should there be any possible changes? Let's discuss that. And Wheels, I'll come to you first, because in the immediate aftermath of the World Cup, do you think there should be significant changes, or do you think it's kind of best to stay with the status quo in the meantime?
I think you always need to be moving forward. If you're not moving forward, then you're moving back. That's just kind of the way that international football works. You always need to look ahead to what the new cycle may look like. And it's very cliche. It's very predictable, but it's time to give some younger players a chance. Jesse Marsch has been very loyal to his core group of players over the last 2 years, and you understand why. He had 2 years to get the team together as much as possible on the same page, figuring out who he trusts and who he didn't at that time to get the most out of this group at the World Cup. Now there's a 4-year gap between Canada and the biggest prize that they'll play for. Yes, there's competitions in between, but certainly you need to have an eye for the future. The one position I think that's exceptionally important for is the goalkeeping position. It's time to give Owen Goodman the gloves and move on from Crépeau, who's done very little wrong. I mean, let up one soft goal in the World Cup, and Dane Sinclair, because Goodman's very much the goalkeeper of the future. 22 now, 26 next time the World Cup rolls around. You need to see at the very least what you have in this young goalkeeper. He has a profile of being a very good one, but now's the time to flip the page, not 2 years from now. And I wrote down a lot of players who've been in and around the program who continue need to play an important part or need to grow and get more time with the team. DeFougerolles, Seagor, Knight LaBelle, who's on the outside looking in, Priso, who's still 23. Marshall Ruddy is just 22. Saliba, Kone, Jeevan Badwell has shown that he should be part of the mix. Marcelo Flores when he recovers. Somehow Jesse Marsch needs to get on the same page as Daniel Jevison, still 22 years of age. Very high ceiling up top for a team that's desperate for goals. Arabin Papel's certainly going to be in the mix, and Promise David is still just 24 years of age. There are going to be other names who come about, whether they're dual nationals, whether they're players playing in the Canadian Premier League or academies across this country. But certainly there's a core group of players in their early 20s. They need to be unleashed, and Marsch needs to figure out as soon as possible what he has, because this is going to be the core group that inevitably pushes his team forward, along with the likes of the star players of Davies when he can come back in, Jonathan David, and the other premier players in this Canadian men's national team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How you feel about that, Ollie?
Yeah, I agree with the sentiment there generally, I think, in that we can talk about Marsh and tactics and the way they're going to play. And I think that's important. But like the single biggest factor for me between now and the next World Cup is how can you improve the players at your disposal, right? Both the ones who are already kind of established and then who is going to come into the group over the next 4 years. Because when we exited the last World Cup, you probably didn't have much of an idea who was going to play at centre-back going forwards for Canada. Moise Bombito hadn't been drafted yet. Derek Cornelius was kind of an extra a lot of the time through that World Cup qualifying run. Luc de Fougereau obviously was very young and not on the radar really at all. So these players can emerge. And I think that's kind of, for me, top of the list, again, of all the things you can talk about, is how do we improve the caliber of the playing squad? So that's new players coming in, but it's also, I look at some of the names that Wills mentions, and yes, can Marsh help to push them along with the national team? But if I was him, I'd also be saying to these players, how many of you can really push your career at the club level as well? You know, when I look at even an established player like Alistair Johnston, can you go to the next level? Nico Seeger, Luc de Fougereau, Ali Ahmed, Nathan Saliba, Promise Davids. Like, I think there's players here who you would like to see really try and push to, I don't want to sound too much like John Herdman here, but to try and get into those top 5 leagues. Because when you look at the teams in the quarterfinals of this World Cup that are really able to go deep in this World Cup, not saying that we're immediately going to get there as Canada, but these are the leagues that these players are playing in. Europe continues, I think, to dominate this competition, both in terms of its national teams and also the players playing for countries outside of Europe where they're playing their club football. So that's where I'd put the focus on. I do think there's a period over the next 12 months or so to really experiment with the schedule. And then you try and build from there, I think, towards hopefully a Copa America in 2028 and the World Cup in 2030. But for me, it's the players who have to be at the center of this.
Yeah, I mean, you guys covered most of it there. There's not much left for me to say. I'd just say that the significant dates that are coming up give opportunities for experimentation for a reason. And I will say that, and Gareth went through a lot of names there. I agree with some of them. I'm not quite sure some of them are good enough right now. And you have to argue, is that down to Jesse Marsh to make them better? Is it down to them to get better at their club, which is what Oliver was talking a little bit about? I just don't know whether the word is significant changes is what we're going to see. I think 17 of the 26 players in this World Cup squad were between 22 and 28. I think a lot of them are going to be around. And, you know, you've just got to find opportunities for some of those players that Gareth mentioned to get them into Canada's team and find out what they're about. You know, we can get into more questions about other things and style. And I think that's actually there's more questions around that and what Jesse Marsh is going to create Canada to look like than some of the personnel. And it's obvious that every time a tournament ends, there's a new cycle. We saw it even coming out of Copa America. You know, you haven't seen much of Luc de Fougereau until the Uruguay game. Nathan Saliba had never played for Canada after that. Ali Ahmed really got his first start there, you know, in opportunities to do that. And that was only 2 years ago. So there are players that can go on and kick on. But I also want to make sure, a caveat, that this is not a rebuilding time for Canada, and then suddenly they can get away with saying they're no longer competing for major continental trophies because they're going through a rebuilding phase. You can maybe do one or the other. You can't necessarily do both at the same time if you're going to go full in on both. And I think it's just taking the pressure off this organization a little bit by saying, let's scrap it all up, let's have a full rebuild, let's bring all these players in, when I think a lot of Canadians now want to kick on and go, no, it's time to win a trophy.
Well, and that's exactly it, Christian, because what's next is Nations League. And I find that even if it was after Herdman, even after World Cup 2022, it was always like, okay, you make steps on that global stage, but at the end of the day, we want a trophy. The men's program hasn't won one since 2000, even though you're still understanding that you've got to bring in new players, young players, and get them integrated into the system. So what do you do? Like, what do you think the approach should be then for Jesse Marsh with that next big tournament where a trophy is on the line?
I mean, I would start by saying that Jesse Marsh has got a lot of thinking to do right now in terms of how does he get more goals from his team. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the reflexive phase at the World Cup is over. We've all done it. We've all told that story and we've all loved it, right? Their achievement and their outcome in this tournament, no one's going to say that it was a disappointment. It has been, I think, far exceeded a lot of people's expectations. However, you know, this is now an ambitious football/soccer country that requires progress. And I think with that comes the coach and the ability to turn this program around and make them more of an attacking unit and less predictable on the field. And that comes down to a few things that we've seen for a long time. If Canada go behind, they never really ever look like coming back. Yes, they did it against Iceland. They got 2 penalties. Yes, they did it against Uruguay. But in a big competitive game, you think about the times they've been knocked down and they don't come back. And I think that comes down to mentality. And they speak a lot. They talk the talk. We want to be the big, hot, most difficult team to play against in the world. We don't fear anybody. They talk the talk. Can they walk the walk? Do they actually feel like they enjoy the pressure of what is top-class international football? Because at times during the World Cup, and only they lived it, only they know, it did look labored. It did look heavy. It did look like that a lot of pressure was on their shoulders. And with this team, it's time to free them up and get the best out of their attacking players and score goals and look like a team that's going to demand to win games from the start.
Yeah, this has to be the number one focus is what they do with the ball. I think they've defended pretty well at this tournament by and large. It's clearly the in-possession stuff that needs to move on. And, I said this on a previous show. I think Jesse Marsch at times can come across as quite defensive when he's questioned on those types of things. I hope he can kind of let that down a little bit to really analyze where his team is at in terms of how they use the ball and how they can get better. And I think there's plenty you can do. You can talk about tactically, but I think beyond that, can you hire a coach who's going to help you in that side of the game? You have a set piece coach. Why not an in-possession coach who can really specialize to help the team get to the next level in that regards? You've got some time here. I do agree that we want to win a continental title and we want to, there's a certain degree of pressure to do that. But you do have some runway here for a little bit of experimentation. And some of the things that you don't see Canada do at tournaments, I think you don't see them because they've never been tried before, right? We've never really tried 3 in midfield. We've never really tried Jonathan Davids playing higher up as a number 9. We've never really tried, Tajon Buchanan switching to the left-hand side to give you a right-footed player coming in off the left and seeing what he can do in that position. It's usually kind of the same formula repeatedly, and I think that's become quite predictable and quite stale. So there's opportunity to do that. And then the other thing, and I'll give him a little bit of credit on this front, is the fitness and form of players. That's not entirely in Jesse Marsch's control. Jonathan David, Tani Oluwaseyi didn't come into this World Cup in great club form off the back of the seasons that they'd had. Alphonso Davies, Promise Davids, Ismail Koney gets injured, Schaffelberg, Flores, even Ali Ahmed, didn't seem to come into the tournament obviously fully healthy and ready to go. So that's an area where you think there could be some improvement just on the basis of circumstances. But this is something I think they really need to take an honest look at and kind of have the humility, I'd say, to be able to take a look at it and not kind of put up the walls that I think get put up sometimes when they're asked questions about this side of the game.
I'm glad you brought that up. The entire country knows getting to a final 16 of the World Cup is something special. But at the same time, I feel like I didn't really learn much about this team over the course of the World Cup, whether it's because of fitness issues with players coming in, whether it's because of the opponents that they played. Like the next World Cup, it comes around, they're not going to be in Pot A. Like that provided them a path where they played Bosnia, a team that they drew, and they beat, a Qatar team that went down to 9 men who weren't very good anyways, and South Africa. And I'm not trying to diminish their accomplishment. They got the job done. And by the metrics, also in terms of expected goals against, Canada's been one of the best performing teams in the tournament. I mean, they had about 5 XG against Qatar, which kind of portrays maybe a little bit of a story. And that's my concern, is that people will point to things like the data that was shown and the final 16 and just kind of give the team a complete pass based upon the way that they're playing and how to take things forward from here. Like, I just don't know how much we learned. So I think that Ollie and KJ bring up a lot of good points. I will just say, like, showing a little bit more flexibility in the way you play, it doesn't need to be a ton. Like, we all know how Jesse Marsch wants his team to play, and I think it can be effective at times. But I would prefer to see them play more like a Red Bull 2.0 than Red Bull 1.0. And a lot of the time it looked more like 1.0, like Ralph Rangnick style, not the Jurgen Klopp style of play. And some of the positioning, like the Jonathan David question, is one that's going to persist. Like, where's, he's your best attacking player, is your record goal scorer, where best to play him moving forward as well. So there's plenty of questions like from that side of things, but I just think that there's going to be an evolution at play here. And I don't think that we should just say, red of 16, everything's great. No, like, this team still has room to grow. And I think that's a real positive, that we all believe that there is room to grow for this team and this program moving forward as well.
Yeah, and moving forward, we also know that Jesse Marsch has a new 4-year deal. And when Kevin Blue, after the World Cup, was asked about his key performance indicators for Jesse Marsch, how is he measuring success here for his coach, he admitted that he didn't have any specifics, at least not at the moment here, Ollie, but that doesn't mean we can't have our own KPIs here for Jesse Marsch the next 4 years. What are some indicators you're looking at and you would like to see him reach?
Yeah, well, there's plenty to choose from, right? And I think the Copa America is a big one. Are they in that tournament or not? I think is going to be quite defining in terms of maybe how they approach some other tournaments. Because you do have to be realistic here to a certain extent. We'd all love to win a CONCACAF title, but are you going to go for the 2027 Gold Cup, the 2028 Copa America, and the 2029 Gold Cup? You got to give these players a summer off at some point. So I think if you're in the Copa America, you're in Nations League, they'll try to qualify for the Olympics as well. I think that's a bit of a long shot, to be honest. But maybe if they're in all of those competitions, the Gold Cup becomes a bit more of an opportunity to take a look at some different players, as the US often does, and give them that tournament experience. But I think those are going to be kind of the hallmarks of it. Try to win a continental trophy in your own region, kind of less tangibly, I guess, but are we seeing progress in the team from the 2026 World Cup as we work towards 2030? Are we seeing some meaningful steps forwards? And then obviously World Cup qualifying. We got to make sure we get there, and are we taking care of that as expected? I think those would probably be the three that come to mind for me as the primary objectives for Jesse Marsch over the next 4 years. Obviously, then ultimately leading to the World Cup performance that you want to see.
I'll let Oliver Platt play human resources here and provide the KPIs, the key performance indicators. But I'll just say that I didn't like that comment from Kevin Blue. Like, previous regimes, the head coach, there's always analysis, whether it's on the men's and the women's team after major tournaments. There's clear expectations. There has to be within any organization in order for people to be aware of what's expected of them. Blue made the comment like, I'm backing them no matter what. Well, what does that mean? Like, I just think that everyone needs to be held accountable for the job that they do. And I get it that Canada Soccer, their biggest liability on just their expenses has always been the head coaches of the national teams. And now that donors have now come in and are paying the majority of his salary, that shouldn't be a reason why to keep a manager in their job. I'm not advocating getting rid of Jesse Marsch, by the way. Like, he's done a fine job. He's going to take the team forward. There's going to be continuity. I think that's going to be a good thing. But there has to be some basis by which you're going to gauge him. And if Blue isn't capable because he doesn't know the game, then others around him have to make up that slack. There has to be internal accountability. It just can't be a manager just doing whatever he wants. That makes very little sense. I feel like we've gone into these awkward positions before in Canadian soccer. So I didn't like that comment. It really surprised me, to be honest with you. There should be a thorough review about how the World Cup played out, the good, the bad, and everything in between. That's just standard practice. And the fact it doesn't sound like the man leading Canadian soccer is that's not the way he wants to operate is a little bit surprising to me.
When you talk about KPIs that you guys have done, for me, the number one KPI on Jesse Marsch starts with his players. What do the players think of him? And are the players now asking him to take them to another level and develop particularly their style of play with the ball? There continues to be question marks, particularly against teams that are deeper against them, that are difficult to break down, that have not been able to be broken down under Jesse Marsch. And a lot of games in friendlies that come to Canada or in games within their region that they're going to play, aside from the US and Mexico, are going to look a lot like that. So players are going to ask their coach, because players by nature are genuinely selfish, how do you get the best out of me? And that's very important going forward. And it starts with their best attacking player and arguably one of their greatest attacking players ever in Jonathan David, who may well struggle at club level, but needs to be given more of a leader role on this team from an attacking prowess talisman point of view. For some reason, it's just disappeared. He scored in 11 in the first 22 games under Jesse Marsch. Great record international football, Copa America opponents, France, the Dutch, you name it, tough opponents. He's disappeared. He's scored in only 2 of the last 14 games. And they need to find a way to get the best out of him. No team made more crosses per game in this World Cup than Canada. No team out of 48. And the service was not good. So it comes to lots of experimentation. Modern day football, we're watching Morgan Rogers play as a 10, then sometimes go out wide. Michael Elise, arguably one of the best players in world football, play as a 10, then sometimes go out wide. That is not the 10 that Jonathan David is playing. Why can't Tajon Buchanan play there? I'd like to see Tajon Buchanan try that role for 60 minutes in a friendly game against, I don't care, right? Play Jonathan David and Tajon Buchanan. Have Flores on the left and Ahmed on the right. Try things. And I think that are some of the KPIs that come to mind for me is attacking football, dominating the games, starting well, being up, leading the game, and not being so predictable. All things that Jesse Marsch has the capability of doing, but as a nation, we are absolutely, absolutely allowed to ask and require that going forward.
But just really quickly, Andy, we haven't even mentioned Alphonso Davies in this as well, right? 15 months, he's played about 15 minutes for Canada. That's another massive KPI, if you want to call it that, is his reintegration into this team as well.
And when will that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I don't mind a little bit of a blender too, because that's right. That's what keeps your opponents on their toes. And I think that's something we've all been clamoring to see here from Jesse Marsch. All right, KJ, enjoy the match tomorrow. But first, vamos a la playa. You promised you were going to do that. Bring back some sand for me. Christian Jack in LA is going to be taking in that Spain-Belgium game. And speaking of other KPIs, I mean, we know Jesse Marsch is going to be at least involved somewhat in this CONCACAF Under-20 Championship. The Canadians playing in this one. This also acts as a qualifier for the Olympics. So their first game will be July 26, 4 p.m. ET. They will take on Panama. When we return here on Bet365 for the win, we're going to turn our attention to the Canadian Championship. The TELUS Canadian Championship, leg 1 of the quarterfinal, went last night. Lots of teams in action, lots of goals as well. We'll take you through those next when we return.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by General Mills. For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Turkey Farmers of Canada.
In Canada, our future stars don't simply show up on the world stage. They are built from the ground up, right here in the heart of our communities.
Come on. Oh, lovely through ball there, Isaiah Johnson! Goal for Halifax!
From a childhood dream to the national team.
Jacob Schaffelberg! Yes! He's done it! Canada! Let's hope for the footballing world!
We are Canada, driven by Volkswagen.
And for Canada, BMO.
After 20 years of supporting the game, we're actually going to play in one. Let's go! So what do you need? Precision striker, rock solid left back?
We need a coin.
For the coin toss? Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I get it. Can I at least flip it? Heads or tails? I'll do that. We're on TV right now. Yeah.
Hey neighbor, meet Walmart Plus, the new membership that does delivery differently. I'm talking unlimited free same-day delivery, free shipping, and no order minimum. And it comes with a Crave subscription too. Yeah, it's like a 2-for-1. Try it free for 30 days. Walmart Plus.
For the Win on One Soccer is presented by Bet365.
CPL side Forge taking on League One side CS Saint Laurent. 16th minute, Nana Mpoma of Forge with a great individual effort here. Goes into the box, left foot, makes it 1-0 for the Orange.
Good goal for Mpoma. Forge have been dominant at the start of this CPL season, and Mpoma is just warming up. That is a scary thought for the rest of the Canadian Premier League. Good goal and a 1-0 lead.
This Canadian Championship is what Forge and Bobby Smirniotis definitely want. But hold on a second here. If you thought the CPL team was going to run away with it, 56th minute, Zachary Bahus from the top of the box. He evens things up at 1.
Yeah, one of Wheels' favorite CPL names, the former Pacific and Atletico Ottawa man. Forge have been absolutely dominant defensively. They're not going to be very happy with this one. You just see Becker and Aromatario getting bypassed there. But give credit to CS Saint Laurent, because this is a team that, you know, they've got a big job to do now going to Hamilton at 1-1, but they're in it. And independent of that second leg, they've got another result against the CPL team here. They continue to impress.
Bahus,
yeah,
Bahus is on fire. Yeah,
there it is.
I should have teed you up for that one.
Yeah, it was a few years ago as well, right? CS Saint Laurent making a name for themselves in this tournament. So 1-1 there, the final, putting themselves in a good position for that second leg. All CPL matchup between FC Supra and Atletico Ottawa. So these two teams here, 29th minute though, that's where we're going to take you first. Loic Kwemi will find David Chouanière, and it will be 1-0 for Supra. Strong start for them.
He's having a bit of a breakout season. Loic Kwemi has looked really good in the Supra team. Also really good to see Ismail Kone, Nathan Saliba, boys Bombito, all in attendance for this game. Seeing the Kwemi and company get the job done.
50th, Sean Rea with a nice solo effort here. Doubles the lead. It's 2-0 Supra. Woo.
Yeah, I agree with Wheels that Kwemi has been great. Raya has been even better. One of the best players in the Canadian Premier League this season, perhaps the best, and he plays a part in this goal as well.
All right, so Chouanière taking down the box here, guys. Play is allowed to continue, and his teammate Conde says, no problem, I got you, bruh. Gives them the commanding 3-0 lead.
Big lead, wearing 99, the great one, Conde. Good to see Chouanière back into the team. Missed the last 2 games. He was back in for this one.
Wesley Timoteo gets one back for Atletico, as you can see there off the free kick, but Ottawa, it was too little too late, and then things got spicy near the end there. Some cards were being handed out, but 3-1 would be the final. Supra taking leg 1 over Atletico Ottawa. MLS side, CF Montreal taking on Vancouver FC. CPL side, 54th minute. Damiano Pechile's long strike here will deflect off Nicholas Mosqueda, and it is 1-0 Eagles.
That is a nasty deflection. That's like an excuse me, get out the way. Oh, I can't. Oof. Corner, nothing the goalkeeper could do. Painful when it's in slow motion like that. It beats Breza. 1-0. Upset in the making, perhaps? Not so much.
I don't know. There was a dangerous cross there by Dagger Thorhalsen. It's headed in by Mateus Campagna for an own goal.
Yeah, tough night for Campagna. It didn't end there, unfortunately. Vancouver played well here, and they'll be really disappointed, I think, that they just allowed Montreal to stick around and come back into this game. Huge chance to get back in front here.
Well, Maury Donor here with that huge chance to take the lead, but this time, Sebastian Breza's like, no, shutting the door there.
He just took an extra touch. Just hit it, son. This is wonderful football. 2-1. They were taking this all day. Just took that a little bit of extra touch. By the way, I love the striker. He's saying, pass it to me. There was no chance he was going to square it. The goal was wide open. Great stop by Breza. But Donor just doesn't need to take that extra touch.
Well, it's heartbreak because this one coming in the 90th minute, Campagna brings down Owen Graham Roach in the box. So I guess, first of all, penalties awarded. Do you like it, Ollie?
I think it's soft. At first glance, I thought it was a penalty, but I think Graham Roach, a young player showing a bit of veteran savvy there, just really gets his body in between Campagna and the ball, which kind of draws the contacts. We're seeing more of these. Owusu finishes the penalty to make it a 2-1 Montreal win, but players kind of attackers, that is, initiating the contact and getting themselves in position to win penalties. Some would call it crafty, some would call it very soft. It cost Vancouver.
Listen, at the end of the day, though, I mean, Vancouver was very close there, walking away with the draw. So it took that penalty being awarded late in the game for Montreal to walk away with a 2-1 victory. Final game of the night, Vancouver Whitecaps, the reigning champs, taking on Cavalry. This at Swangard Stadium. So this is always fun. Lots of fans showing up for this one. Now, I thought this was going to open up the floodgates, and I went, uh-oh, because this was just the second minute. Whitecaps with the throw-in. And then Ranko Veselinovic shot deflects off Calvary's Adam Perlman for an own goal. Oh, no.
Oh, no, yeah. The positive side is Ranko Veselinovic back on the field. Did his ACL last summer. Just had played 13 minutes. Got the start in this one. Good to see Ranko back out there for the Caps.
But hold on, another throw-in. This one going the way of Cavalry as Dan Klomp gathers up the loose ball and evens things up.
Klomp territory, loves getting forwards on set pieces, throw-ins, corners, free kicks, and scoring a few goals himself. And you just thought Cavalry at this point, maybe could they be a bit more savvy? 1-1 with 30 to go. Not so, unfortunately.
No, second half really opened up here for the Whitecaps. Brian White's shot blocked. Thomas Mueller makes no mistake and regains the lead for Vancouver.
Finally, a goal not brought to you by the Arsenal. From Mobilio scoring at Swangard to Mueller. Love it.
Yeah, this was just 3 minutes later, too. By the way, Ocampo's shot stopped, but White heads home the rebound to make it 3-1.
Yeah, Nathan Ingham had just put out a campfire in a 6-yard box, as you can see there from the black mark and the smoke that engulfed the half.
And this was just a sloppy play here from Cavalry. Oh, no, Lumi ends up with the goal. I mean, there's 3 Whitecaps players right there, and they all touch it, too, for that goal. 4-1 would be the final.
Just like everyone thinks that they're 2010 Barcelona. Play it wide. No need to play it through the middle. That is a self-inflicted wound. Alumi gets it. That'll be a frustrating finale for Wilden Jr. And this gave it a little bit of jeopardy for Sorensen and company with Vancouver returning from their extended break. Hadn't played since May. So a really good result for the Whitecaps.
19 shots, 6 of them on target. So you see there the final. Vancouver Whitecaps in a very good position after leg 1 of the TELUS Canadian Championship quarterfinals. And let's just continue with that game, because being at Swangard Stadium, how special was it to see Thomas Mueller there, Ollie? And then especially he goes and he gets a goal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I feel like I've been seeing him everywhere because he's been on German TV coverage for the World Cup, and I think he's mostly been based in New York, but flying around for their games, and then suddenly he's at Swangard Stadium playing in a Canadian Championship game. So that was cool to see. And look, it's a really big stretch coming up for the Whitecaps, you know, in the immediate future, but obviously the rest of the season as well. The top of the Western Conference in MLS, they're still quite clearly the best team in Canada and heavy favorites to win this competition once again. But you've got Sebastian Berhalter, Andres Cubas coming off World Cups, generating some interest in the summer transfer window. Are they going to be able to keep holds of both of them or even one? How is that potentially going to change the team? Ryan Gold's still trying to get back to where he was as well. So is this a team that, with all the promise they've shown over the past 18 months, can generate another MLS Cup run? Or is this going to be a bit of a tumultuous summer window for the Whitecaps and Jesper Sorensen to navigate?
There's always the conversation of rest versus rust, whether the time off will pay off for certain players. I feel, based upon how many games that Whitecaps played last season, that the World Cup break was actually a real positive for the Whitecaps. Like I said, Veselinovic coming back into the team, Ryan Gauld with the start. You're hoping that he's really caught up and is back up to speed. I think Mueller needs to be rested and managed appropriately, which, based on the depth in this Whitecaps team, there's no reason why he shouldn't be. So despite the will he or won't he go story that will be topical over the next little bit when it comes to Sebastian Berhalter, this team is deep enough to, I think, withstand that type of blow. Yes, they're much better with Berhalter in it, but there's a lot of quality in this Whitecaps team, from Mueller to White to Gould. They're going to be in the mix to win MLS this season. There's no doubt about it. And it'll take one really bad day at the office for the Whitecaps to be eliminated at any point during the TELUS Canadian Championships as well.
Well, what's crazy is, so you have FC Supra with a win, you have CF Montreal with a win, and you have CS Saint Laurent drawing Forge. I mean, we have a real potential here, Ollie, of 3 Montreal, Quebec-based teams making the semifinal of the Canadian Championship. Like, how significant is that? What do you read into that?
Well, I mean, it's pretty remarkable, isn't it? Like Saint Laurent have still got a lot to do, obviously going to Hamilton, but they're in with a shout. And to have 3 teams from the same city in the semi-final, I think would be pretty special and a testament to all the talent that's in that province and in that city. And like I said before, Saint Laurent's ability to kind of sustain it. Obviously, a lot of their players have gone to Supra since the CPL team started. Has been really impressive. But for me, above all else here, CF Montreal are trying to get back to something like they previously were. We understand that. That's going to take time. What an opportunity for FC Supra in their first season to potentially go on a deep Canadian Championship run, maybe even make a Canadian Championship final. They're not going to have to overcome MLS opposition to potentially get there. That would be a brilliant story for them to write as they kind of try and capture the imagination of the community and continue to build that club in its first season. So big opportunity for them. And obviously they're in pole position in this tie now against Ottawa.
This tournament exceptionally important for CF Montreal to really get back to a final. Like, this has to be one of the priorities for that side to give themselves a puncher's chance of CONCACAF Champions Cup action. Saint Laurent's going to be in tough at Forge. I think that they're going to be a big long shot to advance. And I kind of think that last goal by Atletico Ottawa has provided them a little bit of a lifeline. 3-0, okay, might be done and dusted. I don't think that this tie is over. Atletico Ottawa generally perform really well at home. Get a goal early, put some pressure on FC Super de Quebec, a team that's still growing into their identity. I think that's going to be the must-see game, return leg. It's going to be FC Super and Atletico Ottawa. Really excited to see how that one might play out.
All right. Well, guess what? You're not going to have to wait too long because leg 2 is just around the corner of the TELUS Canadian Championship Sunday, 4 p.m. You can see Forge and CS Saint Laurent get that started. The one you're talking about there, Wheels, leg 2 will go August 11th between Supra and Atletico Ottawa at 7 p.m. ET. And we will find out who will be off to the semifinals for the 2026 TELUS Canadian Championship. So we know it's going to be Spain versus Belgium tomorrow. Winner of that will move on to meet France, who defeated Morocco today 2-0 when we return. Wheeler's Wager. That's what you're going to get next here on Bet365 for the win on One Soccer.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by General Mills. For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Turkey Farmers of Canada.
We were there for your first game together. The day you taught him the rules and the answer for every question. We've been there for the good times and a few moments we don't talk about. And now,
who won the most Canadian Classics?
It's a passion you can share. And we're just happy we could be there. 20 years, and we're still growing. Together.
Hey neighbor, meet Walmart Plus, the new membership that does delivery differently. I'm talking unlimited free same-day delivery, free shipping, and no order minimum. And it comes with a Crave subscription too. Yeah, it's like a 2-for-1. Try it free for 30 days. Walmart Plus.
Canada are really pressing here. Oh, what a move. That is a quality ball. Now the run into the box.
A player Mike bet on just missed an open net tap-in and got subbed off.
I could have scored that in jeans!
Mike doesn't know it yet, but thanks to Bet365's sub-on play-on,
the net was wide open!
His prop bet rolls over to the fresh leg sub coming on. So if the sub scores, Mike still wins.
False alarm, people. My bet's still good!
If your player gets subbed, your bet plays on.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Samsung.
Quarterfinals continue for the World Cup tomorrow. Belgium, Spain, 3 p.m. ET. Then be sure to tune in right here for Bet365 for the win, 6 p.m. Eastern, breaking this one down. And of course, looking ahead to the other quarterfinal matchups. But we're going to continue with this one, Spain, Belgium. Wheels, what's your wager?
All right, 3-pack. Let's get this parlay. Let's hit it quarterfinal style. Spain to advance. I think they're the superior side. No need to explain more. The Spain to advance, that's not in 90 minutes. That's just them, whether it's extra time, penalties to go on. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Lamine Yamal to be fouled at least twice. He's a handful for good reason. He's getting better as the tournament goes on. Forget about the stale match against Portugal. This Belgium plays much more open. We'll take a little bit more risks. And Maxime de Kuyper is the left back, a Brighton player, good attacking fullback. I'm not sure he can handle a player like Yamal at this point. And Belgium, under their team total for goals of half a goal, that means for them to fail to score. Spain, it's been well documented, has not conceded a goal in this tournament. In fact, Spain have gone over 10 hours overall at World Cups without conceding. And De La Fuente, his side, is just very good defensively. So plus 413, if you throw all those three together, I like that play. And I'm not just saying it.
Okay. Let's just talk about favorites and who you want to move on. Not want to move on, who you think is going to move on. We don't actually pick favorites here. Sometimes we do.
Can pick favorites.
You can pick a favorite. Ollie, who are you picking then?
Well, I agree with Wheels. I think it's going to be Spain. It's tough to know exactly what to make of Belgium. They've had such an up and down tournament, but they've ended up making it to a stage I think they'll be probably pretty happy with. But I look at this game and I just think with all the stars coming out to shine at this tournament, and it's been a tournament where they've delivered some absolutely brilliant performances, the players that you would expect to be playing at that level, we haven't quite had that yet from Lamine Yamal. And I don't think that's because he's incapable of it. I think maybe it's coming. You know, he obviously came into this tournament off the back of an injury. He's had some time now to build up his fitness to get to 90 minutes. He looks good. I could see this being a day where Lamine Yamal, you know, I know it's not the boldest prediction in the world. He's that good of a player, but the day where he really kind of stakes his claim on this World Cup and is the guy to make a difference. So combine that with as Will said, the defensive record of Spain, which has been untouchable so far, and I think they'll advance.
Yeah, a couple things. Spain under De La Fuente have won all 6 knockout stage games that they played, dating back to the Euros. That's a very good statistic. It'll be interesting to see what Belgium does. They haven't beat Spain, Andy, since 1980. A very big year. I won't tell our viewers why that's a big year, but a very important year. Amadou Onana is out. He did his ACL that game. That means De Bruyne might come back in. Belgium beat a better side since Rudy Garcia started De Bruyne, Doku, and Lukaku on the bench. They've been better in the second half of games. He might have to take a little bit more risk in this one. And yeah, I just think that Spain, this isn't a vintage Spanish side like David Villa, Fernando Torres, Xavi, Iniesta. They beat you in a very different way. Rodri and Pedri in the midfield just control the game. They have fullbacks who get up and down the line with relative ease. And Yamal's the star. Like, other than that, it's very workmanlike. So I think in a game like this against Belgium, they're clear favorites. And I think based upon the style of play, Andy, they're a team that can actually go on and beat France in the semifinal. France, I think, are vulnerable at the back. They need to be tested. And the fact that Spain can control the ball and control the tempo in the play, I think that'll be a really difficult matchup potentially for France in the semifinal.
Well, things do typically get tougher the further you go into a competition. That's my analysis for the night. That's Oliver Platt, Gareth Wheeler, Christian Jack joined us. Thank you to him and to everyone here at One Soccer. Yes, 1980. Ollie knows nothing about that year. I don't even know if he was a twinkle in his parents' eye yet. You've been watching Bet365 for the win right here on One Soccer. I'm Andy Petrillo. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. See you next time.